Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1944. Terrific tools and tips. It sounds interesting. And yes, so here we are. My apologies for I left my jacket there. I have just gotten back from dropping Zeffie off at the dog sitters, and she was sort of like out of the car and starts turning towards the front of the car like she normally does. And I says, no, we've got to go this way. And then she led me all the way up to their front door. She'd never been to this house before, but she led me to the front door anyway. And so she was very happy to be reunited with her dog sitting family. And she was running around like a crazy dog, having a blast, getting reacquainted with everybody, meeting new dogs, and just running around like a crazy dog. She was having fun. So I know that she is in good hands for the next few days. But anyway, so terrific tools and tips. Whoo, we got a few for you. Just, it's looking at some of these tools we've talked about, tips that we've talked about before, but we're kind of putting different twists on some of them so that you can look at things from a different, unique perspective that may give you insight. Excuse me, to may give you a different point of view, which can help get you past roadblocks, the brick walls. So let's dive in. So, first of all, my question for you for today is, what's one terrific discovery in your genealogy research? What's one terrific discovery in your genealogy research that you're proud to share with your family? Oh, I have a ton. I have so many stories, not just in my family, but in my clients' families, for information that we've found for them, things that we've uncovered for them. Just, it gives me the chills. I get goosebumps all over when I suddenly when I know when I have hit that right record that I've been looking for, and I suddenly find it. I get chills all over the body. I got goosebumps up the arms, the legs, everywhere. When I know that is the right piece of information, that missing piece we finally found. It is an awesome, awesome sensation. So, and I've got so many stories about that. We could be here for a while, but we're not going to. So some of the terrific tools for research, you can explore niche archives, archives that specialize in things like military, fraternal organizations, or occupational records. If you've got things like doctors and nurses and people who had to have a license to practice, you can go to the association pages and look up some of their archives there as well. Some associations have archives, some do not. Some you have to call about, some have them available online for past and present, past and current. Jeepers, I can't talk tonight. It's been a very long day and I still have to pack. Past and current members, that's what I was trying to get out of my head. But so you got, like I said, military, fraternal organizations, occupational records, those secret societies, all sorts of things. There's also genealogy software tips. Now, when you are in something like Ancestry, they have the little green leaves that come up. When those little green leaves come up, please, please, please do not go, oh, I found it, click accept. No. Is it the right person? You still have to verify that the record is the correct one that fits into your tree. I have had, and especially if you click, especially if you click on the one that says that shows you somebody else's tree and you go through, oh, they've got all the records I'm missing. Do they really? I have found so many errors in other people's trees. It is unbelievable. So whenever I see those, I may look at them and might use them as a starting place for somebody's name, or I might just, because within checking 2 or 3 records against, that they have in there, I could turn around and say, that's the wrong one. So I'm so glad I didn't put it in my tree. And there's another reason that you don't put in your tree too. They could be putting in, because when they bring up those trees and have them side by side, they just show you the person that you're looking for, plus their children, plus their spouses and their parents. That's all the information that you get to see. Unless the people are still alive, then it's got private written there instead of a person's name, or no, you don't even know if it's a boy or a girl. And then there's also, but what they don't show you, and this is where you have to be extremely careful, is that if you go, oh yeah, all their information matches mine, I'm going to accept that. Stop. Do not do that. Go into that tree. You'll be able to click on the tree and go in and have a look. What siblings did your main person have? Because I got caught out. This is why I stopped accepting the trees. I got caught out one time when I accepted the details that were there for the parents, because it all matched up with mine. The parents matched up, the spouse matched up, their children matched up, all of the years were correct. And I thought, oh, great, another resource. Click. What I did not realize at the time is it pulls in all their siblings as well. So it looks like, oh, here's your parents. Well, here's all their siblings. And that is where the issue arose, because through my research, I'd found there might have been like 3, maybe 4 siblings. And all of a sudden I've got a list of 11 there that I now have to go through and verify one by one. Was that actually them? Do I have to remove any? And it's just, so don't go there. Some of them will actually have relationship calculators where you can go, what is the now Ancestry used to have this where I could click on a person and go, relationship calculator, I want to match this person to this one over here. What is their relationship? They don't do that anymore. They took that one away, which annoyed me because it was really good. It was really good fun using that one. Now it's just sort of like, well, whoever the main person is, when you go into any of the records in your tree, it will tell you how that person is related back to the home person. And of course, I have lots of little mini trees and everything in there as well. So if I'm on a mini tree, there'll be no relationship to me. Then I know I'm in a mini tree. But if I'm on my main tree, it will then tell me if they're third great grandparents, fourth great grandparents, fifth great grand aunts, uncles or nieces, nephews, cousins, and how many times removed and all of that. But it all is back to how you can do that just from the home person. So I'm annoyed they took away the relationship calculator because that was a really cool tool. And then I believe it's on MyHeritage, you can highlight 2 people and find out the relationship between them. I think MyHeritage still has that. Check out language translation aids, because there are some times where you have documents that are from a different country in a different language. Now, I had to do a search one time for clients who were from Mexico. And FamilySearch.org had a really cool tool in there. It was actually Spain Spanish, not Latin American Spanish, if that makes sense. There is a little bit of difference between Spanish spoken in Spain and Spanish that's spoken in Mexico. And so they had a PDF file there that had things in there like days of the week, months, the days, the number day, 1 through 31. It had there in their common genealogy terms like father, mother, sister, brother, uncle, aunt, niece, nephew, cousin, all of that sort of information. And then they had things like birth, deaths, marriages, divorce. Where else did they have in there? It was just sorry. It was just a really cool reference tool. And so I was able to, and they had this beautiful hand script that I was actually able to decipher sometimes. But I found Google Translation would give me a loose translation of what I was reading. So I would sit there with the document up on the screen and I would be typing over here into Google Translate to see what translation it would come up with. And yes, I could pick out, and I got to the point because I was researching in these documents for a couple of weeks, I very quickly got into the rhythm of I'm looking for this word. This word means birth. This one means death. This one means, couldn't pronounce them, but I can definitely point them out in the document and go, oh, this is a marriage record. This is, and child of, son of, daughter of, the name of the witness. That was the other one I had to do, was the witness. And so I would type it into Google Translate, which will give me a rough translation of what that document was. And so when I sent the information to the client, I included an image of the original document. And then I said, and this has been I said, I'm not sure exactly how accurate this is, but this has been translated by Google, and then put in there Google Translated. And so they could see what it was actually written. They could read what the translation was. And because they spoke both English and Spanish, they were able to translate and see. And they actually came back and said that Google Translation did a pretty good job. And I was like, thank goodness for that. So that's another thing that you can use. You can now use apparently AI tools. I haven't tried any AI tools on doing translations, but apparently there is a way to do that. And now they also have dictionary. They have, Google Translate I found is the quickest one because you can just type it in there. But apparently AI tools have done that. I have not tried AI tools with that yet, but next time I come across some foreign documents, guess what I'm going to be using? You could do a spotlight on hidden record, spotlighting hidden records. You can do chronicling. Why did I put that word there? You could find out about America. Dive into historical newspapers to uncover unexpected stories. Great place to find really cool stories is to go into historical newspapers. And you can go through a person's, if a person lived in a particular area and they got that particular paper, you could always be going through that newspaper to see if they're mentioned anywhere in those. You may find stories in there about other relatives and ancestors that lived in that same area as well. But I tell you, newspaper has some great stories in there. Some of them are unexpected. Like I was reading I ended up trying to find all the newspapers that had this article in there because I came across one. It was the same last name as what I was researching, but it was a different branch of the tree. And it wasn't on the tree I was researching. But I got caught up in the story of this murder mystery that happened to one of the people in this other family that I wasn't researching at the time. And because I couldn't find any connection back. But I was reading this murder mystery story. I was so fascinated by it. So like, let's go check to see if there's any updates in the newspaper. So then I'm researching the newspapers to see, is there any updates? And did they find out who did it and what happened? And yeah, they did. They got the person. They put out the whole case there. And he ended up, was he lifetime? I don't remember what his sentence was though. But it was really cool to go back and follow this whole story through this one newspaper. Land records are gold mines. You can explore deeds and property records to trace migrations, uncover hidden family wealth or stories. Land records actually have a lot of information in there. They're really cool. They're really cool to read. And deciphering the quadrants is really cool. It's been a while since I have looked at a land record, but basically everything got cut up into these blocks, and each block was worth, I think, 100 acres. And then that 100 acres was then quartered to 25 acres, and those 25 acres were then quartered down again. It was fascinating how they did that, and then how they told you which plot you were on. And this number, there was one number meant north and south, and the other one meant east and west, or something like that. It's been a while since I've looked at a land record, but it won't take long to pick it back up again. Cemetery symbolism. So when you're going through cemetery, this is why I love cemeteries, because there's all sorts of fascinating information that you can find on there. Some people just put last name, birth year, death year, that's it. And I'm like, okay, well, who's in that grave? There, you got to go to the office and find that information out. But some of them have little stories on them. Some of them have these symbols on there. And the symbols usually that were put on there would be your ancestors' beliefs. They'd have symbols there for the faith that they were. They would have, maybe they had a profession that had a symbol for it. There could have been an affiliation with a society, a school, a fraternity, anything like that could be on there as well, or even military. They may put military on there as well. I can tell you on Brad's headstone, it has USC on there because that was his school, and then on the other corner it has the Royal New Zealand Air Force Rondel which is a, well, it's not coloured, but that has the two circles, and in the middle circle there is a kiwi, and silhouette of the kiwi bird in there. So one, my New Zealand heritage, and two, my service to the Royal New Zealand Air Force. So that's what's on mine. You got to think about these things. You could also look at, if you're doing collaborations, you can do a cousin collaboration, reaching out to DNA matches or distant relatives to pull resources and knowledge to find out how, because remember, DNA will show you are connected by blood, but genealogy will show you how you are connected. So yes, you may see things that says, oh, you've got this many centimorgans, which means you could be blip to this person. And you're sort of like, oh, it says I could do this. No. Yes, those centimorgans can be helpful in how many generations do I need to look through to find this person? It can be helpful in that regard because it's usually around the same number of generations. And but as far as HMNs, this is just a guesstimate based on the centimorgans that you have in common. You've got to do the genealogy research to see what the actual relationship is, because DNA cannot tell you. It can only guesstimate based on the number of cent. I put my aunt as my first cousin. It had it said on my paternal side that I had a third cousin once removed. It turns out that she was a third cousin on my a half third cousin on my maternal side, and the half coming in the fact that my second great grandmother is the ancestor we had in common, because her second great grandfather was a child. Second great grandfather? Yeah. Hang on. My brain's fried right now. But her, hang on. I'll go back to my second great grandmother. She had two marriages. The first marriage is the one that I am related to her through. Then her second marriages was how my half third cousin is related to me, because it is not from a child that came from the first marriage. Had it been a child from the first marriage, it would have been third cousin. But because it was a child from the second marriage, they only had one grandparent. We only had one grandparent in common. That's why it's a half. Cheapest, it was a long explanation. You can look at collaborative trees like WikiTree or Family Search. Be very careful with those, because sometimes there could be several trees with one person, with that one person that you're looking in it, and they will all have different relationships going on in there. And you can find some incorrect information that way. You do have a way that you can go in and you can change the information that is on some of those trees, but then there's a reason box, and we always encourage people to put in there the reason why you are changing what you are changing. It could be the fact that you might have a original copy of a birth certificate, and on that birth certificate it states this information. It could be you might have a certified copy of the of a certificate, which then proves your reason for changing and things like that. You can have family history meetups. So you can do Zoom calls, you could do meetups, and discuss setting up family history with the people in the meetups. You could then get on Zoom and you could share research progress. And this is part of the collaborative thing, that if you've got several people who are looking at the same family, what did you find this week? What did you find this month? Get together on Zoom, create a meetup, and then because with meetup, you can still do virtual calls, or you can do in-live person calls, or you can do hybrids. But get together once a month, once a week, whatever it is you decide to do, and see what progress everybody's made on their tree. Maybe it's not everybody in there is related. It's just a group of people working on their tree, and you could all be in there helping. Oh, you're stuck on that one? Well, when I came across that incident, I did or have you tried this, or have you tried that? So that you're all working on your own individual trees, but at the same time, you're helping each other out with researching and things like that. So setting up a family history meetup is really cool, because you can actually learn a lot from other people as well, and they can learn a lot from you. And if somebody has a problem, you can all brainstorm different ways to solve that problem. Celebrate your ancestors. Create an ancestor timeline. So plot out a timeline of major events in an ancestor's life to visualize their journey. So this is taking maybe like your great grandparents or something that were born like in the 1900s and they didn't pass away to the 1970s. What happened between the date that they were born and the date that they died that was a major impact? That had a major impact. Like, if they were born in 1900, they had World War I, they had World War II, there's the Vietnam War, the Korean War. There was some other wars in there as well. There was natural disasters that happened. There was different crimes taking place that had a major impact on the country that they were in. There's all sorts of things that could go along. So what's really cool is that when you do this, there was assassinations in that time between 1900 and 1970. And so what you can do is you can put all of these into a timeline, and then you can go back and see which ones took place in the areas in which, and then you put on that timeline where they lived at certain times in their life. And then you can go back and see which of those major incidences would have, there's even coronations during that time, abdications, royal weddings. Sorry, they're just popping into my head right now. But you can go back over that timeline and you can put in, okay, these were the major events that took place. Where was my ancestor living at the time? And would that event have an impact on their life? I asked my mum this one time. I said, what do you remember about Queen Elizabeth II's coronation? Because this was just before King Charles III was coronated. And she says, I don't remember much. She told me how old she was at the time, and she said we didn't have TV back then. So they would listen around the radio. She said we heard that King George VI, Queen Elizabeth II's father, had passed away, and that she was now the queen, and that she was in some country in Africa when the news came through. This is my mother's recollection. And she said, I don't really remember much about the coronation. She said we didn't get to see it. All we had was just what was being talked about on the radio. So that was, and she was a kid at that time. And so that was her memories of that coronation. So, record these things, and that's putting it on that timeline. You could do theme-based research. So you could focus on an ancestor's life through themes like education, war, industry. Well, they were alive during the First World War. Where were they? Did they sign up? Were they working for a civilian contractor? Were they in the military? Where did they get sent? What are their war records? Were they around during the Civil War time? Look for different events and research the ancestor's life through themes like, and you can look up school records. There's a lot of school, here in America, there's a lot of yearbooks being put online right now. Maybe there was an industry that they worked in. Maybe you can find information about that industry so you can see, and using census reports, or even in New Zealand, like electoral rolls, you can see what their job was, because they had their occupations listed, and then you can go through that and go to that industry and have a look and see, okay, well, they were a storekeeper, so what was involved in that? And you can look up information on that. So choose a theme and go for it. You could do a tribute project. Like you could create a shadow box, you could do a blog or a video tribute to an ancestor. Talk about their life timeline and the things where they lived and what conditions would have been like during that time. You could take on, and then I love genealogy challenges. This is where I shine. You could do brick wall breakthroughs. Tackle a specific type of genealogical brick wall, like same name confusion or conflicting dates. Create a spreadsheet. Here is person 1, here is person 2, here is person 3, here is person 4, who you think they are, and put their life history down the side. This is when they were born, when they married, and who they married, who their parents were, and when they passed away, the children that they had, occupations that they had, places they had lived, and then you've got everything laid out there in on the spreadsheet, where you can just quickly go across the columns and have a look and see. You've got in there, this was on the 1950 census, this was on the 1951 census if you're in England, things like this. And then you could go through and have a look and see, okay, definitely not that one. And so you take that column and you move it all the way over to the right, because you might need it later on. And now you look at what you've got left, and it's a process of, these guys are all the same all the way through. Are they actually this? They may actually be the same person. Who knows? So same name confusion or conflicting dates is a very good one. Now, when it comes to conflicting dates, especially if it's on military records, and you have a copy of their birth certificate or their birth announcement or their baptism and stuff, so you have an idea how old they were. Remember, during the war and things, guys would make themselves older so that they would be, so they could enlist in the military. So just keep that in mind when you are looking at dates. And you got conflicting dates. It said, well, this looks like it could be that person because it's got the same father's name. They're living at the address that they were on the last census, but his age is like 3 years out of whack. Maybe he bumped his age up so that he could enlist. You never know. Explore spelling variations on last names. This is huge. Even with something like Smith, you could have Smith, you could have Smith, S-M-Y-T-H-E. That's just Smith. So look for different variations. Explore the different variations that you can spell. I mean, my mother-in-law's one, I'm pretty on her maiden name. I think I'm somewhere in the 20s on the different spelling variations of her name. Yeah, and I've got them all written down. And I even have them as AKAs in her ancestry file, so that's looking up all of the names, all the spellings at once. Sometimes I still have to go back in. My second great grandfather, same thing. But he only has like about 7 or 8 different variations on his name. Is it an S? Is it a Z? Is it a Y? Is it an I? These sorts of questions. Is the I and the Y before the S and Z or after the S and Z? So there's different variations. And that way you can, and even if you're looking through census reports and you know whereabouts that they were located during a census and you can't find them, take a while, but go through the census report and find that area and that street and go down. It could be that the spelling is completely different because whoever the enumerator was, they heard and spelt how they heard it. May not necessarily be how it was. And especially if they're talking with somebody with an accent and that person was spelling it out for them, or maybe they just said the name and the person was spelling it out as they heard it. Trust me, you get a lot of different variations. Research siblings, cousins, or even in-laws to find clues to your direct ancestor. This is one of my favorite things to do. If I get stuck when I'm moving up through my direct ancestors, I then look at the sidelines, at the branches on the side. I'm looking at cousins, siblings, and yes, I have even found in-laws because sometimes the in-law, I might be able to find the marriage certificate with that person's name on it, but for some reason the male's name, the groom's name in this case. So you have an uncle who got married and you find a copy of their wedding certificate under the bride's name because whoever did the marriage license did not hear the name very well and spelled the groom's name completely different, or different enough that it wasn't picked up on spelling variations, but close enough that you could figure out that's who they were talking about. And so sometimes, and that could be under the bride's name. So you have a look at that and now you've got, now you can go find the uncle's version of that certificate. And if sometimes they had them just listed in an index. So now you can go find him in the index, or if they show an image of the certificate, you can see how did they get that name? Oh, that's how they got, and there's the father's name there with his occupation. So sometimes you got to go sideways to go up. And that's the end of, hang on. Looking up hobbies as well. Like, did they craft a quilt with family names or cook a recipe tied to ancestral roots? Look through different hobbies that they may have had. And then as a really cool thing to do to help pass the stories along to younger generations, take a photo album and create a storybook for them and talk to them about that particular ancestor. But make sure the stories are age appropriate, and talk about maybe their life as a kid. And you've got pictures there of their second great grandfather as a baby, when he got married or stuff like that. And you can talk about what you have discovered about this person and the type of person that they were. So with that, what's one terrific discovery in your genealogy research that you are proud to share with your family? It'll be interesting. We got a lot of them. So this Thanksgiving, we may be bringing some of them out. Who knows? But anyway, with that, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic sparkling evening. I don't know what time I will be on tomorrow night. I'm driving to San Diego, and I'm not sure what time I will get on tomorrow night. It could be anywhere between 6 and 8 p.m. Pacific time. So maybe after 8 p.m. I don't know. Depends when the grandkids go to bed. Anyway, with that, I'm out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you back here tomorrow evening, sometime between 6 p.m. and I'm going to say 9 p.m. Pacific time. Sorry, I can't be more specific.